Robin Hood Radio presents Stage Right or Not with Michele Willens. Michele is a longtime journalist and herself is a published playwright of several theatrical works. She's a frequent contributor to the Huffington Post, Daily Beast, and the Atlantic websites.
Another opening of another show.
Well, things remain off and on as Tony night approaches and COVID hangs around. Now, on that subject, Broadway theaters will continue to require ticket holders to wear masks, at least through June 30th. The Broadway League said the owners and operators of all 41 theaters had agreed to the extension of the mask policy. The decision comes at a time when New York City has declared a high COVID alert. As for proof of vaccines, that's up to the individual theater companies. But for most Broadway houses, they are not demanding this again, yet. And there's still plenty of interrupting due to the virus. Understudies become the season's heroes. One night at Come From Away, 9 of the 12 performers were standbys, including alumni and members of touring companies flown in to help. And Macbeth, the director, Sam Gold, stepped in one night to perform. Last week at Girl from the North Country, the actor Anthony Edwards, best known for ER in the film Top Gun, stepped on stage with a script after just an hour of rehearsal, primarily to help the show that stars his Tony-nominated wife, Mare Winningham. God resourcefulness has curtailed show cancellations, but it hasn't eliminated them. Last weekend, Moulin Rouge, which won the most recent Tony Award for Best Musical, whenever that was, canceled 4 performances, while The Skin of Our Teeth canceled 3. You might remember I was supposed to attend that one. It's only up to May 29th, now unless extended. So I'm not sure I'll get the chance. With all these limited runs, these cancellations really matter. Yes, coping with COVID has not been inexpensive either. For example, the Tony-nominated revival of Caroline or Change spent an additional $10,000 to $15,000 each week. That's a lot of change on pandemic precautions, according to the Roundabout Theater Company, which presented it. And that beat goes on, I assume, at many theaters. But there are surprising, non-Tony-related things up and about. For example, the Sheen Center for Thought and Culture in downtown New York is presenting a clever, intimate production called Turgenev Chekhov. Here we have about a dozen performers in 90-minute semi-musical takes on 2 famous works by those, dare I say, Russian authors, About Love by Turgenev and 3 Sisters by Chekhov. Well, I saw About Love, and I was moved and impressed in a small venue, on a small stage. No costumes or sets. We are taken into the story of hoped for, first, found, and then lost passion. You show in your face what I see in your soul. The past is the past and the future is never here. Those are just a few lines that stayed with me. Now, did I mention there's a jazz band ensemble on the side? These pieces are up for a while. Again, that's at the Sheen Center, Sheen. Turgenev, of course, was primarily an author, which brings me to the fact that, well, you can always read about theater. I've recently enjoyed 3 books of interest. First up is Something Wonderful by Todd Purdom about the amazing achievements of the Richard Rodgers-Oscar Hammerstein partnership. Along the way, we go through many trials and tribulations, other partnerships, such as Rodgers with Lorenz Hart, who had a sad life brought down by alcohol. When you read books like this, you realize how many failures even great icons have on their way to the ultimate success. Well, here we follow Rodgers and Hammerstein from New York to many attempts in Hollywood, but ultimately it was that show about waking up to a beautiful morning where a farmhand and a cowboy vie for a girl's love. Yes, Oklahoma put this team on top, where they remained. There are interesting love stories in the book as well as a key mentorship. That would be Hammerstein's impact on one Stephen Sondheim, who literally learned at his doorstep. I have also been reading My Place in the Sun, an autobiography by George Stevens Jr. about his amazing life. Now, he is the son of one of the greatest film directors in history, George Stevens Sr., and Stevens Jr. himself has had a brilliant career, including founding the American Film Institute and the Kennedy Center Honors. He also wrote the one-man play, Thurgood, and grew up with a grandfather's passion for the theater. Stevens Jr. is now 90 and will be interviewed by his longtime friend Tom Brokaw soon at the 92nd Street Y. You might check, as those are usually live and or virtual. I just heard Stevens speak in Washington, and the anecdotes are beyond compare. I also devoured the new book about the tempestuous marriage of Laurence Olivier and Vivien Leigh. It's called Truly, Madly, Deeply. This one surprised me for one key reason. Now, I always knew Olivier was primarily a creature of the stage. Well, it turns out that Leigh was as well. Her number of movies, while very famous ones, are so few. But she and Olivier worked on Shakespeare plays around the world, and she performed to the aforementioned skin of our teeth. Even when suffering from mental illness, which did bring her down, she managed to keep getting up on that stage. Literally hundreds of plays. Finally, some nice news this week. Yes, there was some. Lorraine Hansberry, author of Raisin in the Sun, will get her own statue, a life-size likeness of Hansberry surrounded by 5 movable bronze chairs that represent aspects of her life. This will be unveiled in Times Square on June 9th. The event will include performances and remarks from playwright Lynn Nottage and Hansberry's 99-year-old sister. Well, it will remain in Times Square through June 12th and then begin a tour of the country over the next year or so on its way to its permanent home in Chicago. That's where Hansberry was born. Oh, and so, Jill, as I sit here at an airport, so you might be hearing a little news, all the shows, some of the shows, and some of the statues are still going on and up, albeit briefly.
And what a wonderful thing that is. So, just in terms of coping, why not?
That's right.
Is
That's
there any?
Right. And I just came from. Yeah. Is there what?
I was just going to say, is there any? Any whispers about sure things for Tony's that you want to throw out, or you're going to just hold? You're going to hold your horses.
Yeah. The only, I would say that probably a sure thing, I think, is probably The Strange Loop for Best Musical. And Best Drama, I have to say Lehman Brothers, the Lehman Trilogy.
Which was up before COVID, no?
Which was what?
Lehman Trilogy was up way pre-COVID.
Well, no, that was somewhere else. That was not at a Broadway house. That was at the Armory.
Right.
It moved to Broadway. Right. It moved to Broadway right. I think it was starting before COVID, came back after COVID, and just squeaked by. It came in January, again for a limited run, but now it's in Los Angeles, or then it moved to L.A. That's a sure thing for Best Drama, I promise. And I think LaChanze is probably the front runner for Best Actress in a Drama, and I would say Sharon Clark from Caroline or Change for Best Musical. I could probably think of more, but I don't have my list in front of me. But I would say
I think
those
that's
are
really
sure
good,
things.
really good for off the top of your head. And what did you find in your on your road trip?
Well, I was in Washington for a few days, and I did check. And then I was at Richmond, Virginia, and they have a whole list of Broadway shows coming to town. Richmond, Virginia. There was Hadestown on the list, and Evan Hansen. I think there were 4. Which just reminded me, and my friends in Richmond were saying, oh, should we go see these? I said, absolutely. It just reminds you, these plays travel. You know, that's how they make most of their money. I mean, Skin of Our Teeth is not going to travel. Lehman Trilogy can't go many places but L.A. and New York because it's so difficult and long. But, you know, these musicals, they have lives that go on, and that's what they hope for. Washington's coming back to life. That's a pretty good theater town. That's coming back to life. So, yeah, the more you go out there and talk to people, and everybody's interested. Boy, when I say, oh, I report on the theater, oh, my God, what have you seen, you know? So there is still a lot of interest in it. I will say that. So we're on to something. Let's hope they stay up. You know, the Tony Awards are coming up in, I think, about June 9th or 12th, something like that. So by next week, we can really do our final.
Stage Right or Not with Michele Willens, produced in the studios of Robin Hood Radio, robinhoodradio.com.